Welcome back, everybody. Today we're diving into the book of Joshua, but we're not just talking about, the big battles and miracles.
Right.
We're going deeper.
Yeah. We're going to be looking at two stories in Joshua where things get kind of messy for the Israelites.
Exactly. Deception, consequences.
Yeah. Tough lessons. And we see how their faith is really tested both in their relationship with God and with each other.
And we always think about that victory at Jericho. The walls came tumbling down. It's easy to think, okay, they're on a roll now. But that's not the whole story, is it?
No, not at all.
It's like they go from this high of victory straight into this really unexpected defeat. They set their sights on Ai, which, compared to Jericho was
Small. Yeah.
like a village. And they get completely taken down.
Defeat.
It's like, wait a minute, how did this happen? The same people who conquered Jericho, they're brought down by this, what seems like a much weaker enemy. It doesn't make sense.
It makes you wonder if something else is going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where this idea of devoted things comes in.
Exactly. So in the book of Joshua, there's this concept of devoted things from conquered cities that were off limits to the Israelites. They belonged to God.
Okay, so like a tribute, a way of acknowledging God's power.
Exactly. Like a sacred offering. You couldn't just go around claiming spoils of war. And that's where we meet Achan in Joshua chapter 7.
Achan, he's the one he takes some of these devoted things, right, from Jericho.
Yeah, he tries to hide it, buries it in his tent. He thinks he can get away with it.
And this isn't just like disobeying orders from a king or a general. It's this direct violation of, like you were saying, this sacred agreement with God. Do you think he was just acting impulsively? Or was there something else, something deeper going on?
It makes you think, right? I mean, here they are, fresh off this victory at Jericho, treasure everywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe he wanted to secure his family's future. Maybe. Maybe it was greed. Who knows? But it makes you think, could this kind of thing still happen today? Even in a community with strong beliefs, do those beliefs always hold up when faced with temptation?
It's scary to think about.
Yeah.
And the really unsettling thing is that his actions didn't just affect him. The Israelites' defeat at Ai, it was a direct result of what he did.
It's like his actions had this ripple effect.
It's almost like this reminder that, sometimes what we think are just personal choices, they actually have these wider consequences. They can affect our communities, even our faith.
And the punishment for Achan, it was severe. And that really shows how seriously this transgression was viewed. It wasn't just about the stolen goods. It was about the broken trust, the violation of this covenant with God.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? That sometimes those setbacks we experience, maybe it's not some outside force. Maybe it's something closer to home, something within ourselves that we need to confront. It's like we go from this story about, internal struggles and consequences to this whole other kind of challenge.
Yeah. And they faced this really clever enemy, the Gibeonites.
The Gibeonites, they really pulled a fast one on the Israelites.
They did. But you have to remember, they were facing a really serious threat. The Israelites were conquering everything in their path.
So the Gibeonites, they had to get creative.
They really did. I mean, they cooked up this whole elaborate act.
Okay, so walk me through it. What do?
They show up to the Israelite camp wearing these, tattered clothes.
Like they've been traveling for ages.
Exactly. Their sandals are falling apart, and they've got this moldy bread, and they're like, oh, we've come from a faraway land.
It's like something out of a movie.
Totally. And you almost have to wonder, were the Israelites so caught up in their own victories that they missed these, really obvious signs?
Or maybe they just wanted to believe it. It's kind of nice to think that someone wants to make peace,
True. But the Gibeonites, they were smart. They knew they couldn't win a fight, so they played a different game. They appealed to the Israelites' sense of compassion.
And their commitment to keeping oaths.
Right. Absolutely. They knew the Israelites took their agreements seriously, and it worked. Because the Israelites, they make a treaty with the Gibeonites without even,
Without checking with God.
Exactly. Which is a big deal for them. They were supposed to consult God before making these kinds of decisions.
Well, it's like they got so caught up in the moment, they forgot their own playbook.
Right. And you know what happens next? They find out the Gibeonites weren't from some far-off land at all. They were practically neighbors.
Awkward. So what did they do?
Well, they couldn't exactly back out of the treaty, right? Because they had given their word.
So even though they were tricked, they honored the agreement.
Yep.
They were bound by their oath, even if it was made under false pretenses. It shows how important those oaths were to them. They believed that breaking a promise, even one made to a deceiver, would have spiritual consequences.
It's like their integrity was on the line.
Exactly.
So the Gibeonites, They pulled off this incredible trick. They saved themselves from being conquered, but it wasn't exactly a happy ending, was it? What ended up happening to them?
Well, because they tricked the Israelites, they didn't get to just become part of the community. Instead, they were given a life of service. They became basically helpers at the sanctuary.
Hewers of wood and drawers of water.
Yeah, a far cry from what they probably hoped for. It was a constant reminder of their ancestors' gamble. It's wild, right? Yeah. These two stories, Achan and his hidden treasure, and then the Gibeonites with their whole elaborate lie.
Oh.
Totally different situations, but when you really look at them, they both kind of come down to this idea of, like, consequences.
Yeah, it's like, are you going to act impulsively or are you going to take a step back and look at the bigger picture? Achan saw those treasures and he went for it. He didn't think about the covenant, about what it really meant to be in a relationship with God.
And the Israelites with the Gibeonites, it's like they got so caught up in their winning streak, they forgot to even ask for God's guidance. They were relying on their own judgment. And look where it got them.
And deception plays a huge role in both stories, too. Achan hiding what he did, the Gibeonites with their whole charade. It makes you think about how we deal with deception today, with all the information thrown at us all the time. How do we know what to believe, who to trust?
Seriously. It's like we're constantly being bombarded with different versions of the truth, and it can be really hard to sort through it all.
Yeah.
But these stories, even though they're ancient, they still feel so relevant because they remind us that even those who are chosen, those who saw miracles firsthand, they messed up too. They made mistakes. They fell for lies. They were human, just like us.
And that's a good thing to remember, isn't it? That we're not alone in these struggles. These stories, they're not just about ancient history. They're like a reflection of our own lives, our own choices.
Our own temptations, our own blind spots.
Exactly. And they challenge us to really think about our motivations, to seek wisdom beyond ourselves, and to remember that our actions have consequences, sometimes big ones.
Well said. And that about wraps up our deep dive into these fascinating and, yeah, a little messy stories from the book of Joshua. We hope you've enjoyed this journey with us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.